Hi everybody, it's Miss Lisa from the St. Paris Public Library. Welcome to Preschool Storytime. Listen, we're going to read some stories and have a good time, so grab your shaky egg. Here we go. Today I feel like shaking my head. Hey, how about you? Today I feel like shaking my head. Hey, how about you? Today I feel like shaking my head. Hey, what do you say? Jump up and down. Today I feel like jumping. Hey, how about you? Jump nice and high. Today I feel like jumping. Hey, how about you? Today I feel like jumping. Hey, what do you say? Hey, what do you say? Alright, you ready? As quiet as a mouse up on your tiptoes. Today I feel like tiptoeing. Hey, how about you? Today I feel like tiptoeing. Hey, how about you? Tiptoe around. Today I feel like tiptoeing. Hey, what do you say? Hey, alright, now we're gonna wiggle all over. Today I feel like wiggling. Wiggle your whole body. Hey, how about you? Today I feel like wiggling. Hey, how about you? Today I feel like wiggling. Hey, what do you say? Hey, what do you say? Ready? Shake your egg up high and shake. Shake your egg down low, way down by your feet. Shake it in the middle by your belly button. Shake it up high in the air. Shake it down low, way down by your feet. Shake it in the middle by your belly button. Good job, good job. All right, let's read a story. The Gum Chewing Rattler. When I was a kid growing up in Arizona, I used to love to chew bubble gum. I always had a big, juicy wad of bubble gum in my mouth. I'm not talking about one piece of bubble gum. I would put 2 or 3 pieces of gum in my mouth at once. I might even put 6 or 7 pieces of bubble gum in my mouth at the same time. Look at all that bubble gum. I would be chomping away on my bubble gum all the time, even when I was in school. My teacher would say the wad in my mouth and would see the wad in my mouth and snap, "Get rid of that gum." I had to take the gum out of my mouth and wrap it in some paper and throw it in the wastebasket. I didn't really care. I always kept another package of bubble gum right in my shirt pocket. My mom was the one who would really get mad at me, though, because I would forget to take the gum out of my shirt pocket. I'd throw my shirt in the wash with all the other dirty clothes. Now, I grew up a very long time ago, and my mom had one of those old-fashioned wringer washing machines. Her washing machine didn't spin. She had to put each piece of clothing through the wringer, and the rollers would squeeze the water out. She would put my shirt through the wringer, and the rollers would squish the bubble gum right into the cloth and make a big, gunky stain all around the pocket. So she'd run it through that wringer, and it would squeeze the gum right into the fabric of the shirt. My mom would say, "Look at this, you've ruined another shirt." But then one day something happened that changed her mind, and she never got mad at me again for carrying gum in my shirt pocket. That day, I was walking around out in the desert, kind of daydreaming, chomping on my bubble gum, not paying attention to where I was going, and I stepped right on a rattlesnake's tail. Oh, look at that. That's scary. The snake couldn't rattle and warn me because I was standing on his tail, so he didn't even worry about warning me. He just came striking up through the air, aiming his fangs right at my heart. That rattlesnake hit me, bam, right on my shirt pocket. That's where I was carrying my spare bubble gum, and the rattlesnake's fangs stuck in the bubble gum. Oh no. So now Look, he's got gum all over it. Can you see that? He's got gum all over in his mouth. There I stood with my foot on the rattlesnake's tail and his fangs stuck in my shirt pocket. He was thrashing around and whipping up against me. I was so scared I couldn't even move. I just froze there, staring into his beady little eyes. Those eyes were just looking hate back at me. The snake started working his jaws all around, trying to get his fangs out of the gum so that he could get back at me and really bite me good. But, of course, as the snake was working his jaws around, trying to get his fangs out of the bubble gum, the gum kept getting softer and softer. The next thing I knew, there was a little pink bubble coming out of the rattlesnake's mouth. It got bigger and bigger till it was twice, maybe 3 times the size of a basketball. I got up all my courage. I brought one hand up slowly and pop! I broke the bubble. The snake went flying back and his head hit on a rock and it knocked him out cold. But that did take all my courage. I fainted. I fell out in the other direction. I didn't come home for lunch and my mom came looking for me. She found me laying there on the ground, and laying in the other direction was a rattlesnake with bubble gum all over his face. My mom asked me what had happened, and I told her the same story I just told you. You know what? She didn't believe it. Did you? I think that's what we call a tall tale. Gum, the gum-chewing rattler. All right, we're going to get moving to a snake song. So take a deep breath, because this one's got a lot of emotions to it. Bend your knees. Bending your knees like this. Kind of like you're walking in place. You're a snake and you're sleeping. And you're up. Through the woods. Move your feet. Swimming. Running. Swimming. Jumping. Snake is jumping in the woods, in the woods, in the woods. Snake is jumping in the woods, in the woods. Snake is feeding on the brook, on the brook, on the brook. Snake is feeding on the brook, on the brook. Snake is running down the road. He's running down the road. Snake is running down the road. Snake is riding on the horse, on the horse. Oh, riding on a horse. Snake is riding on the horse. He don't see. Snake is going, snake is running, snake is swimming, snake is crawling, snake is jumping, snake is running. Keep riding the horse. Woo! Have you ever seen a snake ride a horse? Me neither. I think horses are afraid of snakes. Keep riding the horse. Snake is holding giant swoop, giant swoop, giant swoop. Snake is got a giant toad. She's looking for a frog, for a frog. She's looking for a frog. Wants to make a Johnny cake. Wants to make a Johnny cake. Wants to make a Johnny cake, Johnny cake. So that she could eat the frog. Eat the frog. Eat the frog. So that she could eat the frog. Eat the frog. Eat the frog. Don't hit yourself in the mouth. Snake is diving down and deep. Down and deep. Snake is diving down and deep. She has found the little frog, little frog. The little frog. She prepared the scoop and all the scoop and all. Wants to make a Johnny cake. Wants to make a Johnny cake. Wants to make a Johnny cake, Johnny cake. Oh!
Hey, what are you doing? Time out.
What in the world? What was that? Sound like an Animal Crossing.
Let's go.
Oh, there the frog goes. He jumped up. No Johnny cake. Oh, running, swimming, diving. Woo! Let's read another story. Verdi. On a small tropical island, the sun rose high above the steamy jungle. A mother python was sending her hatchlings out into the forest the way all mother pythons do. Grow up big and green as the tree leaves, she called to her little yellow babies as they happily scattered among the trees. But Verdi dawdled. He was proudly eyeing his bright yellow skin. He especially liked the bold stripes that zigzagged down his back. Why the hurry to grow up big and green, he wondered. Maybe some of the older snakes in the jungle could tell him. Verdi ventured into the treetops to look for them. Umbles, Aggie, and Ribbon were lazing on some branches nearby. Verdi peered at their droopy green bodies. It's not polite to stare, chided Aggie. Umble burps and groans. It's taken nearly 4 weeks for that last lizard to digest. I surely do like lizards, but lizards don't like me. Why don't lizards like you? Asked Verdi. Don't interrupt, Umble grumbles. Dear me, whined Aunt Aggie. If I don't shed soon, this itchy skin will drive me bananas. Verdi tapped a tune with his tail as he waited to speak. Stop that, Verdi. It makes me nervous, Ribbon complained. Besides, you'll never grow up to be properly green, always interrupting and constantly fidgeting. Verdi couldn't imagine being in such a hurry to be like them, and he really wanted to keep his sporty stripes. Hoping to find snakes that weren't so boring, Verdi slipped away. Dozer was snoring in a tree not far from the others. Hello, said Verdi. Do you want to climb trees with me? I'm tired, Dozer growled. Go do a few laps around the jungle, okay? Verdi's heart sank. Greens were not only lazy and boring, they were rude. At the top of the very tall tree, Verdi gripped one branch with his tail and another with his little snake jaws. I will never be lazy, boring, or green, he thought. I will jump and climb and keep moving so fast that I will stay yellow and striped forever. Then Verdi let go. He went sailing through the air. From a distance, the greens watched. Oh my, they chorused. Ribbon shook his head. At this rate, he'll be lucky to make it to his first molt. Aggie nodded. He's likely to put an eye out on a branch. Umble moaned. He may not live to turn green. But one day, Verdi's skin began to peel, revealing a pale green stripe stretching along his whole body. Cack, he gasped. How can this be? I'm the speediest snake in the jungle, and I'm still turning green. He raced down to the river, grabbed up a mouthful of rough leaves. Verdi flung himself into the water. If I can't run this green off, I'll scrub it off, he thought. His frantic splashing caught the eye of a large bottom feeder cruising the murky depths. Yum, the old fish hummed. Lunch. Before the fish could haul Verdi under, the frightened snake bit him on the nose. Ah, pooh! With a blast of his rubbery lips, the great fish sneezed, sending Verdi into the air. Slapping onto the soggy shore, Verdi skidded out of reach. Whew, that was close, he sputtered. Every inch of his body was covered with wet, gloppy mud. Kinda lumpy, kinda brown. Sure beats being green. He left the mud on. But the soft brown muck dried into a hard gray shell, and Verdi could barely move. If he even budged, the stuff cracked off in jagged chunks. As each piece fell away, Verdi could see that his body was even greener than before. This is terrible, cried Verdi. He pictured himself hanging around in droopy loops, itching and complaining and worrying all day like the old greens. He looked up into the sky where the sun blazed a beautiful yellow, just the color he used to be. Then he pulled a vine to the top of the tree. Launching himself from the treetop, Verdi startled a flock of colorful birds. He became dizzy with delight, sure the bright sun and his lofty speed would turn him golden again. In his joy, Verdi forgot he would fall back to the earth. Whippity, whappity, whip, whap, wham! Plummeting through the trees, Verdi landed in a crooked sprawl across a log on the forest floor. He couldn't move. "Help!" he croaked. That probably hurt. As usual, the Greens had been watching Verdi's antics. They moved quickly to where he lay. "Didn't we say it would come to this?" Umbles said, shaking his head. Aggie sighed. "Lucky thing he's still got 2 good eyes." They gently lifted Verdi up to a safer place where they could watch over him while he healed. Neatly splinting to a branch, Verdi had no choice but to listen to the Greens as they gabbed. "Remember how I used to streak across the forest floor?" Ribbon asked. "Quick as lightning," answered Aggie, "and I climbed giant trees like they were nothing. They grew taller than you know. The things I dared to run down and swallow," Umbles bragged. "Wild boar were no match for me." Verdi was astonished. "You used to run and climb and hunt giant pigs? What happened?" "Ribbon crashed, just like you," Aggie replied. "I took a terrible fall and almost put an eye out. Then old Umble here nearly choked to death. Now we all prefer the quiet life, a warm perch, a little sunshine, and an occasional good meal." The Greens rambled on about their days of glory, and Verdi settled in on his branch. They tied him on there so that his bones will all heal. Finally, one afternoon, Umble says, "Looks like you're ready to go again." He carefully untied Verdi from the branch. "You are welcome to come with us," said Aggie. Ribbon agreed. The 3 Greens slipped quietly back into the forest. Verdi wasn't ready to join them. He wasn't sure where he wanted to go, so he just stretched and stayed put until the sun went down. He listened to the forest come alive. There's all kinds of things in there. Birds, frogs, bugs. Time passed. The sun and moon took turns in the sky. Verdi marveled as the full moon grew thinner every night. Then he watched patiently as it slowly grew round again. He wondered why he hadn't noticed that before. Verdi became so green that he blended perfectly with the leaves. He was so still that other creatures walked right by without seeing him. Because he's hidden in there. He's camouflaged. One fine morning, as Verdi basked in the sunshine, 2 small yellow snakes approached. They tapped and fidgeted as they stared. "Get a load of that old green guy," one of them whispered. "Do you think he ever moves?" The other snickered. "I seriously doubt it." "They're just like I used to be," thought Verdi, and now what I was afraid to be. He looked at his, and now I'm now what I was afraid to be. He looked at his big green body and slowly smiled. "How would you like to climb trees with me?" he asked. "With you?" The yellows were astonished. "I'll even show you my fancy figure 8, Verdi replied, though it was a little worried about putting out his eye out. With practice, the 3 snakes performed a perfect triple figure 8. Leaping and looping with his little striped friends, Verdi laughed. "I may be big and very green, but I'm still me." Verdi. I hope you had fun today at Preschool Storytime. Listen, put one hand way up high. Wave goodbye, it's time to go. Wave up high and wave down low. Wave real fast, and wave real slow. Wave goodbye, it's time to go. Wave up high, wave down low. Wave goodbye, I'll miss you so. Love you. Be good listeners. Remember, wash your hands with soap and water. Keep the germs away, way, way. See you next week.